Hello, welcome to In the Court of the Wenton King. We're doing the War of the Worlds, Jeff Wayne's musical version of the War of the Worlds. It was a suggestion, and it's one of those things where kind of why didn't we do it before? Because it's a thing we both know, but also is it actually the kind of thing we do or not? Which is interesting because is it a musical? Is it not a musical? Is a thing, I think, but it is great. It's fantastic. I haven't listened to it since I was about 10, which is interesting. So it was great to hear it again. And it's immediate, isn't it? You put it on, it's excellent. It's so much fun. I like War of the Worlds anyway. So it's interesting how the subject matter is cool, and that makes the music cool. So is the music cool without the subject matter? I don't know. And really, is it a musical? I don't know whether it is or not. I mean, last week I said, well, it's a musical. Some of it is a bit. It's more like a Rick Wakeman album, that kind of thing. In fact, he must have been kicking himself in 1978, thinking, bugger. Because it's exactly the kind of, and it's so commercial and so accessible and so good, and it was a huge success. It was in the charts for 250 weeks or something. It's one of them.
Has Jeff Wayne actually done anything else, or was this?
Yeah,
this is it.
There's Jeff Wayne's musical version of Spartacus. I think there's something else as well. But yeah, I think when I say Wakeman, I don't mean Wakeman's playing as a hired gun. I mean his albums he makes.
Yeah.
Like Arthur and Journey, the remake of Journey, and Return to the Center. And in fact, I noticed a little bit of dialogue, something like unarmed and with nowhere to hide, they blah 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 blah, and that actual line is in some Rick Wakeman stuff. There's very much that kind of thing. There's Mogi stuff on there as well, although it's kind of low in the mix a bit, I think. I mean, a musical. I don't really like musicals. I always thought it's a compromise because you've got theatre,
yeah,
and you've got music, and it's sometimes it feels like it's coming somewhere in between, and that's why I always felt it's a bit diet, And the problem with musicals is when the melody line is made up by the dialogue. So it's I'm singing this bit because I have to tell you this stuff because this is exposition of the story. That's not music. That's just me making up notes, isn't it? And there's a little bit of that. But generally, it's not like that at all. These are rock songs with dialogue, which is absolutely great. It's probably short-lived, huge amount of fun. I get the impression it's the kind of thing you put it on and you think, oh, it's the best thing in the world. But it gets old very quickly. I suspect it's one of those kind of things. Its instantaneousness means you'll listen to it to death and then never listen to it ever again. It's one of those, for another 10 years. Maybe, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I have a similar sort of experience. You listen to it in blocks, and then you put it down for a while. Not quite 10 years. It's not quite an Apocalypse Now sort of flow, whatever you want to call it, cycle. It's an every couple of years thing, and brilliant fun. Richard Burton, big Richard Burton fan. I don't know why. There's something about the voice and something about his background, and there's something about the fact that he was just completely off his head at times.
No one would believe.
In the first half.
My memory, actually, what I think of when people say War of the Worlds is sitting in maths, going, no one would have believed, and being told off for being
I'll tell you what was really cool. I went to see sort of like the show, the actual musical show in Nottingham with a friend, and they had like a reconstruction of Richard Burton speaking lines on the circular thing.
Yeah.
It was really, really good.
Like with Tupac.
Yeah. Anyway, it's great, it's funky, it's definitely 70s, but it's 70s in a good way, in the sense that it will never, it will age, but I mean...
It sounds like it's from the 70s,
yeah,
but it's not like it's from the 70s. It's cheesy, isn't it? But it invites you into the cheesiness. It's okay.
I don't know how they got David Essex on there, a superstar like that. I mean...
Was he at that point? I don't know.
Oh, I'm sure he was.
Is he just famous as Justin Hayward and Phil Lynott? I don't know. I mean, maybe more people have heard the name.
Yeah, it's a great subject for an album, I suppose. I mean, are there any other albums like that? I mean, you mentioned What's His Face, Rick Wakeman.
Yeah, definitely his kind of thing. I mean, he did 1984 in 1984. Well, I've never actually heard that. In fact, I mean, obviously Barry tried to do 1984 and couldn't get the rights. And his song 1984, the funkiness in that, the stuff, it's that kind of thing on this. In that it's kind of cheesy. So you've got swooping themes and and either you invite yourself into that or you don't, because it is cheesy, but that's okay. There is a tendency, I mean, it's a double album. It's one of the longest albums we've ever reviewed. I don't think it's quite as long as The Lamb, which is 100 minutes, The Lamb is. I think this is about 90 minutes, I'm guessing, something like that. So it's one of the longest albums we've done. It's longer than Topographic, and a lot longer than Physical Graffiti.
I think it's got a much more compelling story than The Lamb. Although The Lamb is a very interesting story, and it's got...
Well, no one knows what it's...
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the thing, in The Lamb there is a lot of music. An awful lot of music, and there is a lot of reprises, but of course there's so much, it's completely daunting when you first hear it. This is the opposite in that it invites you in, but it does mean there's a lot of repetition. It's not really variations on a theme, it just does that bit again, and except the drums are playing a different thing or something, and then does it again. No, Nathaniel. What, again? He's not listed. Are you asking him again? And, but track 2 is a good one to talk about, because I find I really like War of the Worlds. I mean, proper War of the Worlds, and it's quite frightening. It is actually scary. Proper War of the Worlds is scary if you take it, you know. And then obviously, Independence Day completely failed on that front, and Steven Spielberg's one was just. Well, in fact, I saw it called Tom Cruise's War of the Worlds, because it wasn't War of the Worlds. It was Adventures of Tom Cruise while War of the Worlds is happening. So that wasn't scary either. But proper War of the Worlds, and I think the 50s movie is really good. Is frightening, I think, and it got me. As track 2 came on with the boom, 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 the down-tuned bass, that's actually scary, and they undo the top of the thing.
It's supposed to be scary. I mean, you remember the Orson Welles radio version? It's
sort
of like
people thought it was real
for being very scary and putting a whole country on high alert because they've been invaded by Martians.
Yeah, so there's no way to relate to how that felt.
Yeah, in that sense, it makes it the perfect thing for rock. Because rock likes scary music.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, track 2 is great, the way it comes in like that and the bass, and then it stops being scary when the banjo, is it electric banjo or something, which is great. There's about 3 minutes worth of music there, but it is 11 minutes. A lot of it is dialogue, and then I think at the end there is a guitar solo really low in the mix, but it just goes round and round and round and round. 11 minutes. So that fantastic intro is like 7 minutes. And that is 11 minutes. And it should be 3, I think. So there is a lot of that. And on the second side as well, it just keeps repeating things over and over and over again. And so from a rock album perspective, it feels like padding. But this is a show, and there's dialogue. You know, I mean, an audio book or an audio play, it's quite short by that standards. So you know, it is straddling between those two. So I don't know whether that's a criticism or not. You know, if you're coming from, like I said, from The Lamb, which is so dense. It's too dense.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose there's a lot of things during the show going on stage, so you need that kind of repetition while it's going on, because it's quite a high, high value or...
Big theatrical show.
Big theatrical thing with robot things coming down and doing stuff. And
yeah, and you have to remember the classic rock shows, you know, Thick as a Brick and all that stuff, were like school plays in comparison to this kind of stuff. People don't realise that because they think the classic rock. But things were much smaller in those days. And if you go and see the musical box, which is awesome, I do recommend to see. If you want to see the Selling England show, you can see the Selling England show and just pretend it's Genesis. But it's small, and it's not like a big. Although you will be impressed, it's not like massive moving things and you know that started with The Wall, really.
It's interesting how War of the Worlds has become part of our lore now almost. There's certain stories that just keep coming around, churning out.
Yeah, and it's quite recent.
Yeah, and War of the Worlds is definitely entered.
With Frankenstein and all that kind of thing.
Treasure Island. I shouldn't imagine we're due a Treasure Island reboot soon.
Oh, probably are. Yeah.
Maybe we should do a Treasure Island actual album.
We should do it, Treasure Island.
You're mad.
Yeah, that'd be lots of fun. It's been ruined by Pirates of the Caribbean through the lens of that now. I do think the real highlights, Forever Autumn is the best thing on there, I think. The opening track.
Yeah.
I like track 3. I don't know what it's called, but it sounds like Camel. Basically, the lyrical guitar is really nice. As is tradition, second side isn't as good, but there's some great stuff on there as well. David Essex is on there. I've no problem with him being on there. Don't think that I'm saying, David Essex, he did easy listening, so therefore wrong. Doesn't matter what he did. I don't care about that. He's a good singer, isn't he? So it's fine. But the stars of the show are Justin Hayward and Phil Lynott, because Justin Hayward brings this gravitas and this otherworldly folkiness. Obviously Phil Lynott brings this character and this voice that's you know it's him straight away. So the bits they're on are kind of the highlights to me.
I mean, Forever Autumn, it wouldn't sound so out of place on the Simon & Garfunkel.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. Yeah. And this is controversial, but to be honest, apart from Nights in White Satin, there's nothing I've heard by Moody Blues that's as good as that. Controversial.
Yeah, that is controversial.
And that's what I expected. I think in my mind, I was thinking of that song. And that's what the kind of thing I expected, and it wasn't really quite up to that.
I'm glad someone requested this album. Should we give it some eggs?
Well, I had a dream. I'll tell you about a dream I had first. Well, I got this on not last Thursday, well, it'd be the Thursday before last. And I listened to the first side, driving home from work, and then I listened to the second side at home, and then listened to a bit of it the next day, but then didn't listen to all of it until the Sunday, where we went for a drive somewhere. So I could listen to it. But it was to take the kids go-karting. It wasn't just to get to listen to this. And this whole experience reminded me of, remember when we did Foxtrot, and you were ill?
Yeah.
And that really affected your ability to even want to go there.
Yeah.
It was just horrible. And
which is a real shame, because I really like Supper's Ready now. Best thing ever.
Yeah. But what happened with this was I wasn't ill before. Fortunately, I wasn't ill listening to it, and I really enjoyed it. Brilliant. But it was afterwards. I got proper horrible flu, and I was had proper fever and all that stuff in the night, and it was crazy stuff. And you know, sometimes when you're ill, you have these sort of stressful things going through your head that don't make sense. And I had this idea that there was 4 tracks, and there's the strings, and the vocals, and the bass, and the guitar. But they put this little string bit in there. Why did they put this string bit in there? And this kept going around in my head over and over again all night. And I don't think it was even a thing. It was just something emotionally in the music there was in my head and going no. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, meanwhile, back on planet Earth. Yeah. Does it get 5 eggs?
I'd give it 5 eggs, just simply because it's a classic, isn't it?
It is a classic. Does it have longevity?
It's got to have longevity, because I mean, it went through sort of like another bout of popularity a few years ago, which is when I went to see it as he was touring it, and then we're going to re-record it, weren't they? With
yeah, they did. With instead of Justin Hayward, it's Gary Barlow.
Oh, that could lose a whole leg.
Now, there's nothing. I'm sure that it's not. I'm not saying boy bands. But Gary Barlow's a terrible singer. Cause I can hear him. It's a horrible nasal. It'd be horrible.
Yeah.
Don't do that. And interestingly, it's David Essex is the only one left who's still there, still doing it, and he's doing the current tour as well.
I think it should get 5 eggs.
It should get 5. I'll point out. I was thinking of 4 at one point because of the musically it's padding, but that doesn't really apply, does it? Because it's a different thing. So yeah, it is 5 eggs and it's 8. So there you go. See you next week. Should we tell them what they're going to see us for next week so they can not tune in?
Well, we were going to do another album, weren't we?
Oh, we are.
I think we ought to do Black Star.
Oh God, I haven't opened it yet. Oh, what about another one? What about Ziggy or something? If we've done Diamond Dogs, we could do Aladdin Sane.
It's going to end up. We're going to talk about. It'll be very difficult to do a Bowie album without talking about Bowie's legacy. And I think Black Star is probably the most appropriate for that.
Yeah.
I think we've got to schedule it in at some point, because I've got a lot about Bowie that I want to get off my chest. But if you're not ready to do Black Star next week, let's not do it. You want to do Justice, obviously. We could do Aladdin Sane, but it's just going to be.
Oh, we could do Outside.
Okay.
Let's do Outside then. So see you next week for Outside.
Ooh.
Wow.